All right, we divided 2 at the beginning, and now we're at the part where we're factoring this red part. All right, now they both get an x at the beginning, and now there's a minus in the problem, right there, which means there must be a minus. Has to be. Now, you ask yourself, could there be another minus? And the answer is yes, because this one's positive. A negative times a negative makes a positive. So there's 2 minuses. All right, now, what makes the 3? There's not many choices. 1 and 3. Now, how do I know it's right? Only if you check it. Negative 3x and negative 1x. Put them together, I get negative 4x, and that's what I wanted. That smiley face of factoring is how you always tell you're right, is by multiplying it out, and the outside and the inside ones that make the smiley face. That's how you tell. All right, this one, a lot of kids are just like, it looks different, I don't know what to do. You look for a GCF. Is there something in common? Yeah, they both have a what? An x. You could say 1. They both have a 1. That's actually true. 1x. But I'm just going to say x. Divide them both by x, and it'll tell you what to put on the inside. Bennett, what is x squared divided by x? Yes, and then there's a minus. Okay. Lipnick, what cancels here? So what's the answer? Good. There's my factored. How can I tell it's right? You just multiply it out. X times x is x squared. X times negative 10, negative 10x. All right, on to the page. Everybody get to this page, please. And this is a few too many problems. All right. You're going to want one of those little charts to be like, how can I make a 30? I'm good at this, but I know not everybody is. I'm a math teacher, but I'm like, oh, 5 and 6 makes 30. And what else, though? 15 and 2 makes 30.
30 and 1.
30 and 1 makes 30. Good. Now, if you want, it's sometimes true that the numbers that multiply to this will also have to make a 13. It doesn't work on all of them. It works on the easy ones, though. So if I'm picking between 15 times 2 or 5 and 6, a 5 and a 6 can make a 13. No, a 5 and a 6 can't make a 13. Okay, but a 15 and a 2 could. So that's your hint on how to factor that first one. I think this is a few too many problems. We're just going to cross off this middle row. But I'd like you to try 1, 2, and 3, 7, 8, and 9. You got to get so that this is easy. Mara, would you start number 1? I'll have you answer for me in a minute. Get some time. Take some time. Factor number 1. I'm going to pause. So if you were struggling with this one, I don't think, since I talked about it a little bit and told you that 15 and 2 is probably it, this one shouldn't have been too bad. Start with x and x. There's a minus in the problem. That means there's a minus. Then you ask yourself, should there be 2 negatives to make that positive? No, I don't want there to be 2 negatives. So then it's a plus. And then the last thing is, it's got to be a 15 and a 2. And eventually, you'll figure out that it has to be this way. Because otherwise, you'll get the opposite of 13x. You want 13x. And this way gets you 13x. That is factored. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, awesome. What?
Can it be, I had x plus 15.
That's okay if the x plus 15 is first. But I did tell you that if there's a negative in the problem, to make this first one negative. That would have been smart. All right, on to number 2. Bennett, tell me what the answer is. It's okay to jump right to the answer.
X minus 8 and x plus 3.
And the way I'll check you is by going this and this and this and this. Negative 8x, and the 3 times the x, that makes 3x. Together that makes 5x. No, wait, negative 5x, and that's what I want. Sweet, I know it's right. Okay, on to number 3. Let's go with Sam Lowe. How do I start for sure? Almost everyone. Yep, there's a minus in the problem, so good. And then this has got to be an x. But is it also a minus over there? No, because it has to come out negative, so it needs one positive and one negative. Okay, good. Now, Ash, take over. What do you think the answer is on this one?
4, -4 plus 9.
Negative 4 and positive 9. I'll check you by going like this. Negative 4x, positive 9x. Add them together, I get positive 5x. And that is correct. Good job. All right. Now would you please look at number 7. We'll use the dice of destiny. Row 6. Oh, that makes it just Dylan today. So Dylan, you always start with x and x, right?
Yeah.
Is there a minus in the problem?
Yeah.
Then this has a minus. Can I use 2 negatives in this problem?
No.
No, because then it wouldn't come out negative. I need a positive. Good. Now, what do you think the numbers are that make a 32?
84.
What?
84.
32. It has to be 32. What makes 32? What times what? Do you not know?
No.
Okay, then look on the sheet. I don't really know either. I haven't really thought about it. I'm just trying to ask you the questions. So I'm going to look and see if I see a 32 anywhere. You guys see a 32 anywhere on the sheet?
Yes.
What was it? What times what?
8 and 4.
Oh, 8 and 4. See how it has to be 8 and 4? All right. So now which one do you think is positive? What's your gut feeling on the 8 and the 4? Which one should be positive?
8.
Yep. There you go. And now how do you check for sure? Nichols, tell me how to check his. He says it's this. Tell me how to check him.
You get to first, yeah, first you have to distribute it.
Okay, so what's the negative 4 times the x?
It's -4x.
And this part?
And then that's supposed to be 8x.
And put them together and you get?
-4x.
And that's what I wanted. Sweet. I know it's right. You get how you can check these? And it's so important to check them. Such a big deal to check them. If you're not checking them, you're going to get a ton wrong. Because you'll think you did it right, and then you won't. All right, Caden, this one. How do I start?
X is in the front.
Is there a negative in the problem?
Yes.
What do I do then?
Put a negative.
Yep. Can I use 2 negatives on this one?
No.
Because that wouldn't come out right. You are correct. Okay, now what are my choices on 20?
-5 and positive 4.
5 and 4. Now, if he's right, then this times this. Caden, what's this times this?
-5x.
Nice. What's this times this?
4x.
And if I put those together, do I get negative x?
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Sweet. I know he's right. All right. Number 9. Marshall, tell me how to start.
There would be no negative.
X plus. Then what?
10.
Probably 10 and 3. All right. But when I check it quick in my head, I get 3x and 10x, and that makes 13x. Dang. Nice try. Do you get the switching the 10 and the 3 around won't even matter? So I got to change them. What else is there? That makes it 30. Yes. And if you found that on the sheet, you'd be like, oh, there's another 30. 6 and 5. And then, would you check it, please? What does this 6 and the x make? 6x. And the 5 and the x? Does that make the right answer?
Yeah.
Yes. Because these make 11x. All right. I think you're getting this. Now, this kind is completely different. Change the page to page 3. You with me? Be on page 3. All right. Then, this kind, you still make 2 parentheses. I know it looks so different, but you make two parentheses. And you always start with an x and an x because why? Because x times x makes x squared. Now on this kind, I want you to just kind of learn a pattern. You can always know how to check it with the smiley face of factoring. But you just go plus 6 and minus 6. How'd I know that? Because this is a pattern called the difference of squares. Difference means minus, and if that's a perfect square, like 36, then it's 6 times 6, right? All right. And you use 1 plus and 1 minus, because why? Because this has to make a negative answer here. So there should be 1 plus and 1 minus. All right. Caden, how can I check to be sure that this is right?
I don't know.
You should know.
Oh, like, yeah,
Yeah, like that.
yeah.
So what does 6x and negative 6x make?
X,
Nope. 6x minus 6x.
0.
Yes. Do you get there is that's why there's nothing in the middle. There's no like 2x or like some other thing in the middle. There's just like a beginning and there's an end and there's nothing in the middle because these cancel out. All right, if you caught that pattern, then this should be easy for you, except the 1 is a weird number. But you start with x and x, you go with plus and minus. Then what two numbers will make a 1 come out? Lindholm, what do you think? Yep. There you go. Because 1 times 1 is 1. I really wish they wouldn't have had this problem next because 1 is such a weird number that way. If they would have used 4, I would have liked it a lot better, and then we would have said 2 and 2, you know. But 1 is weird because 1 times 1 is 1. But, all right. But it was 1, so let's get it back to that. And now, what is this? It looks like the same exact question. Nope. They had made y be 0, so they want us to find the x-intercepts or solve it. So at the end, you just take the same factoring, but you do something more. You figure out what makes this part 0, and you figure out what makes that part 0. X equals -1 and x equals 1. The only difference is after you factor it, you get the solutions. You solve it. Because when you stick in 1 in here, it will actually equal 0. Yes?
Well, like the one before, will there ever be a question that like doesn't divide into 2?
I know what you mean. Like, let's say it was x squared minus 24. No, can't factor that.
Okay.
It has to be a perfect square like 25. And if it had been 25, it's so easy. It's just x and x. There's got to be a negative, right? But there has to also be a positive because this makes a negative answer at the end. And it's just 5 and a 5. That's all I got to do. All right, let's see if you really got that kind. It should be your place on the test. X squared minus 36. Factor it. Or, no, we already did that one. My bad. X squared minus 81. This should be the easiest problem on the test. You know that little pattern? It says do, 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 do. Done. Marshall, how does it have to start in both parentheses? And then is there a plus and a minus, or a minus and a minus, or a plus and a plus?
Plus and
Yep. And now, what are the last two numbers? 9 and 9. And if you multiplied it all the way out, x times x is x squared. There it is. Outside and inside is what it's all about. And it comes out to negative 9x and positive 9x, which cancel. And then the last thing is 9 times 9 is 81, but there's negative, so it's negative 81. Look at that. It works. You multiply it all the way out, you get the problem back. X plus 9, x minus 9. Okay. Move to this page, please. This is next level. Honestly, for my kids that are just trying to pass this class, you're probably not going to get this right. But think of that as a challenge. If you're trying to kid who's trying to get A's and B's in here, you can do this. Do you get x and x is not going to work this time? Because you'd only get x squared. So people that are the A and B level kids in math, see if you can figure this out. You can use logic. It can't be X and X. Who figured out it would have to be 2X and 2X? Raise your hand if you did. Nice work. My future A students on the next test. If you didn't figure that out, but you can figure it out now, like, look, that makes 4X squared. Then you can join the A and B club. All right. Now, how about pluses and minuses? Well, I always do the signs next. There's a minus in the problem. Duh, minus. Now the question is, should there be another minus or a plus? Plus. Dylan, what's the last number that I put in here and here?
Oh, 5 and 5.
5 and 5. Now, until now, there's no way to really know if you're right. You probably think you did it right, but how do you check it? You go 2x times 2x makes 4x squared. Yay, it's working. Inside and outside make negative 10x and positive 10x, and they cancel, which is kind of weird. But that's what we want, actually. And then that makes negative 25. Yay, it worked. This is the hardest factoring you've ever done. And it'll get a little harder by the time we take the test. Yes?
Would that be like an R3 question? Or a test or R2?
This would be like a hard R2 question. All right. Because you haven't seen the really hard stuff yet. All right. This one, it should be easy. Answer both sides. One side, you just got to factor it. The other side, you figure out x equals this and x equals that. Do it. Jaden, tell me how to start. It is 7x and 7x, and then the signs. Yep. I put the minus first, but it doesn't really matter. And then the last number. Nine times 9 makes 100. 52 times 52 makes 100. I got to have the same number here and here. 10. 10 and 10 makes 100. 10 times 10 makes 100. And it's negative 100 because there's a negative in it. All right, cool. Now, if my grade depended on it, which it doesn't right now, this is just like the practice, but if my grade depended on it, I would totally just real quick multiply this out and make sure that it works. And it's like, oh yeah, the 7x times the 7x makes the 49x squared. The outside and the inside cancel because it's negative 70x and positive 70x, and they're canceling. And then this times this makes 100. Sweet, I know it works. All right, but wait a minute. How do I actually get that solved then? It's the same exact problem. But I know there's at least 10 kids in here who don't know how to do this. Solve. Figure out what makes it equal to 0. So if you know, you know, and if you don't know, watch. What makes this equal 0? 7x minus 10 equals 0. It's a tiny little bite-sized equation. And then this one, 7x plus 10 equals 0. And if you can't solve them from there, I can't help you. By now, you have to know how to solve a two-step equation, or you're not going to get a good grade on this test. That's just the way it goes. Two-step equations now are kind of the minimum. Hold on, I'm recording right now. All right, so I'm not saying that you would never make a mistake, but you should know how to solve this. 10/7. -10/7. There's your two answers. You set them equal to 0 and you solve little equations. You already had a test on this. In math, you can't just forget the old test. That's one of the hardest things about math. You take one unit that kicks your butt, and then it's just going to keep coming back and kicking your butt until you figure it out. In science class, if it's the phylums and you didn't know how to do them, now you can still learn the parts of the cell. They're completely different. But in math, if you didn't learn a chapter about solving equations, you're toast for the whole rest of the math. So, gotta learn it. So if there's any of these tests that you bombed, taking a retake is a very smart thing, because otherwise that stuff will just come back and bite you later, like solving equations, like that. All right. So, this one is the weirdest one you've had so far. And I bet you there'll be 3 kids that figure out the secret. I know some of you are like, but there's no way to do the 32. You're kind of right. So there's something else you do. You can't split up the 32 into 2 different equal things, like, 6 times 6 doesn't make 32, it just, you do that. Who's figured out the secret? I was wrong. Nobody's figured out the secret. Now, it's possible somebody has, but they're too shy to say it. Yeah?
16x.
Okay, wait, 16? You think if you think 16 is in the answer, nope, it's not. I know 16 times 2 is 32. That's good, but that's not it. That's not what you're going for. Okay. The very first slide of the very first day had, everybody with ADHD couldn't focus. I'm going to try again now. The very first slide of the very first day, it said that you should always look for a GCF. Is there a GCF in here that you could pull out to the front? Yes, there is, and 0 kids remembered that. It's okay. You're human and you're normal. Everybody forgets that. Do you agree that they're both even? 50's even, isn't it? It's an even number. In case you didn't know that, if it ends in a 0, then that means 2 goes in. All right. So, they're both even. So take out a 2. And if you're like, I don't know what you mean by take out, divide them both by 2 and you'll figure it out. And now, Mr. Nichols, that's where the 16 comes in. You just had to tell me that I had to take a 2 out to get the 16. Because see now, half of 32 is 16. And half of the 50 is 25. And now it's one of those kind that you can factor. You leave the 2 there. Can you do it? This is definitely R3 level, because you had to take out a GCF. This would be like one of the hard 4 problems. I'm not saying it is for sure one of them, but if we have one on the test, it would be in the hard section. Did you realize it was 4x and 4x? Did you realize it had to be a plus and a minus? Did you realize it had to be a 5 and a 5? Cool. There it is. Who got there before I did? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. All right, good. That is one of the hardest kinds. And we don't have the test like tomorrow. We got some time. You have factoring day 2 homework. Everybody find it. I'm going to pause for a second while we get that homework out. The first question is x squared minus 49. You can do this.
Okay, x in the front, and then a minus, and then 7, 2007.
You got it. There it is. That's your first answer. Easy as that. Now, when they get difficult, remember the whole class got stumped when there was a GCF? So, like, for instance, if this had been 10x squared by times 490, and you'd go, oh, there's a 10 in both of them, and you'd factor it out to the front. Look for, when the numbers are really big, look and see if you can factor something out at the beginning. All right, that's all I got for you for today.